Welcome to the Mobile Armored Podcast Show, the podcast that transforms into a windmill, which then transforms into a helicopter.
That then transforms into a jet.
Yep, exactly. My name is Adam Moore, alongside my co-host and best friend, PJ McNerney. How's it going?
I'm doing all right, man. This is an interesting episode, and I'll justify this statement at the end, but I kind of wanted V.E.N.O.M to win this time. I kind of felt like they deserved it.
They put up a good fight. I'll tell you that much. This is one of their most credible threats we've seen so far.
It really is. And I felt like they actually were really acting competently the entire episode.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with almost all of the mask agents.
I'm looking forward to that. I'll also point out that the episode is relatively sophisticated. I mean, relatively for Mask, because you have the great moment where, like, kind of the other villain in the episode has the change of heart, and it shows that V.E.N.O.M, it takes things even further, which makes V.E.N.O.M feel even more evil. You know what I mean? Like, some episodes, they're carving their faces on the Easter Island statues. In this episode, it's like the bad guy who hired them said, whoa, wait a minute. I never said do that. And Miles says, I don't care, I'm going to do it anyways. Like, that's a good villainous twist.
It really is, especially coming off, we've had a couple of goofball ones. But Miles is on top of his game. We got a lot of really cool set pieces from V.E.N.O.M. And I got some questions about Mask.
Well, let's go, man. It's episode 35 in Dutch. A madman hires V.E.N.O.M to destroy the flood dikes in the Netherlands if their parliament doesn't allow him a political position. Now, that position is prime minister. And I feel there's probably some constitutional issues, unless this quote-unquote madman, who doesn't seem like he's a madman, but anyways, unless he's a member of the Dutch parliament, there's a very solid reason why he can't become the prime minister. But
we're going to get into the mechanics of this because he's got a great reveal. Yeah. Like, it's fun, and he seems almost like he's going to be a Blofeld type character.
Yeah, very much so.
And he's not.
No, he really isn't. But let's dive right in, okay? So we open on tulip fields. So we must be in Holland. And Scott and T-Bob are, crawling around on the ground, hiding from Matt?
My reaction was, Scott, we understand why you're trying to escape your father, but it is no good. This is not enough.
Well, we are now on top of one of the dikes, and we're looking out at the ocean, and a heavily accented Dutchman named Johan, who I'm just going to toss out there for Buddy Hawk's nominee, just for the sake of it. He explains that much of the country is below sea level.
This guy is insane, and we should drop some audio clips from this guy, because I don't know what to say. I mean...
Well, he's like a mix between Yoda and the Swedish Chef. Like, he has this line. T-Bob is scared of being on top of the dike for some reason. And the guy says,
"Little machine friend, you needn't be afraid. The dikes are very safe. Let me show you."
So Johan shows off the country's latest invention, which is an ultrasound analyzer. And it studies the dikes to make sure they're in good working order. So he asks,
"You feel safe now, little machine?"
"Ooh, we'll see. As long as I don't see the sea."
He is so funny.
He is T-Bob's biggest fan. He just loves this guy. Doesn't question the fact, by the way, that T-Bob is a sentient robot.
He loves him so much that I really wondered if he either leads an incredibly happy life or just a very joyless one.
Well, suddenly, dogs start barking. And Matt says, sounds like the place is going to the dogs. And then T-Bob starts malfunctioning. And Johan still thinks it's funny. And now I'm starting to think that Johan is either drunk or stoned.
All right. This leads me into a pet theory I've got for this episode and why I have questions for Mask. Most Mask agents are on drugs this episode. So Johan's our first. Johan, I think he's obviously not a Mask agent, but I think he's on drugs.
Yeah, no, he's laughing way too much at T-Bob to be of, sound mind and body. Suddenly, The dike starts leaking and it bursts, and Matt helps everyone climb up a tree to escape the rushing water, but the tree falls over. But they manage to climb up to a high ground. It's actually a pretty compelling opening of an episode. This is how you should begin a 22-minute episode of an action series, is right off the bat, you should have a threat, and you should put your characters in danger, which is rarely something that happens in a Mask episode.
I know. They climb up that tree, and the tree, as you said, starts to fall over. I love the shot. Scott looking so terrified as that tree starts to go over. Yeah. Like he is scared.
Which is weird because he's been in scarier places than this. He's in a tree about to fall into water. It's like, well, probably not as bad as the time he almost died on a cable car.
or falling down that crevasse after trying to rescue T-Bob with the Incan thing.
Yeah, but Matt dives in to save him.
Yeah, he's like got his arm around him. He's caring. It's like, whoa. There's actually a lot of affection for Scott this episode.
Yeah, there is. And it's true affection because, Matt doesn't bother to take off his suit jacket. He's in his full blue suit when he's swimming in the water there.
I will move to recall this moment later on, though. I mean, just to as evidence.
Noted. Well, meanwhile, we are at a lovely Dutch home. Does Matt own this too?
Adam, what doesn't Matt own at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, I think he does stay at hotels sometimes, but also a lot of the time he seems to just show up somewhere and buy a home.
How do you know he doesn't own those hotels?
That's true. Well, Scott is trying to sleep, but T-Bob is keeping him awake, oiling his joints. I mean his joints, like, his elbows and knees, not the joints you might buy at an Amsterdam bar. T-Bob spots a windmill flying in the sky.
If T-Bob could be stoned, that could explain what he's seeing. So I'm saying this is drug usage number 2.
Very good. Noted.
Especially of how he's going to be acting after this moment, because it's a little unhinged.
Well, the next morning, Scott asks Matt if they're going to look into why the dike failed. And Matt reveals that Venom has been operating in this part of Europe. So once again, PJ, Matt brings his son to an area of the world where a terrorist organization is operating. I mean, it's almost cliche at this point to say another Father of the Year nominee.
It's entirely indefensible. I will try my darndest. Matt doesn't know if he's dealing with the Venom that's a credible threat, like he just had in Paris, or the Venom where they think a magic sword's going to make him invincible, like they just had in Rome. So it's like a roll of the dice for him, but you're right. Matt's continuing his history of child endangerment.
Yeah, we've talked about this in a previous episode too. Are Matt's vacations based on his belief or the proof that he has that Venom is operating in an area? They're like, hey, let's go on vacation to Tokyo because he knows Venom is there. In which case, I don't think this guy knows how to vacation.
That's a good point. He can't leave work at home. Actually, this could be an interesting thing we'll get back to 20 episodes from now, which is the reason why Scott is no longer with Matt is because Child Protective Services finally stepped in, and that's why he's missing from all of season 2.
Yeah, and Matt just doesn't care to talk about it.
So would the conversation be like, where's Scott? Who?
Well, T-Bob runs off to look at a windmill he claims is about to take off. And then Matt sends Scott to go after him, saying that T-Bob is his responsibility. So let me get this straight. The robot who's supposed to take care of Scott is then also Scott's responsibility?
Yeah, I know. Which is amazing because now we're like entrusting a child to take care of himself and something else. So I felt the same way. Now, we do have confirmation that Scott created T-Bob, so it is kind of an Anakin C-3PO situation. But it is clear we have data that shows that Matt has trusted Scott to T-Bob's care in the past. But I had a question for you. Is actually Matt disassociating T-Bob and Scott and can't keep track of who's the robot and who's the adopted son? And again, I want to call back to this moment a little bit for Matt's state of mind.
Well, I was about to say, if you're looking for proof that they're all on drugs, yes, Matt is in a disassociative state right now. Well, Matt asked the computer for any suspicious activity, just anywhere. Fortunately, it does focus in on, Netherlands. And it turns out an ultrasound analyzer was stolen 17 days ago. And don't you think Matt could have put these pieces together a little sooner? Or like, if the computer knew that, was it holding the information back from Matt?
I've wondered about this. So yeah, 100%. The computer's not being proactive about this sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's sitting on relevant information, doing nothing to alert them. But here's my question, Adam. Do things like this happen so often to Matt that it's kind of like the iPhone shut off notifications? Like, in the world of Mask, is there so much going on? You just get pinged all the time.
I mean, he's into unusual situations. That's his whole thing. That's what gets him up in the morning, right? So you'd think he'd have the computer tuned to alert him when there are unusual situations, like an ultrasound analyzer being stolen.
Sure, but in a world where we've sort of retconned that G.I. Joe and Transformers exist, that could range everywhere from an attack on Autobot City to a giant snake monster to, hey, there's a threesome going on in Amsterdam that needs a fourth. Do you want to come in, Matt? So, I mean, like, what do you want the computer to alert Matt? Which unusual situation do you want that to pop to the top?
True. It is an issue of tuning the sensitivity of it.
Yeah. They don't have LLMs yet, man.
No. Good point. Well, we cut to Venom, and it turns out that they modified the analyzer to create ultrasonic vibrations that destroyed the Dyke. It turns out they've built an even bigger one. And if I can just say, by bigger, it's like 2 stories or 3 stories tall.
It's true. This thing is massive.
It's like the NASA crawler that rolls out the Saturn V rocket.
Venom went all out on this one, man.
Well, meanwhile, for no reason whatsoever, we cut to T-Bob knocking on the door of a windmill. And when the guy who is working inside opens it up, he asks the guy, when's the next flight?
I'm going to double down. This is more evidence that T-Bob's on drugs.
Yes.
Or the equivalent for him.
Which might be oil.
What is in that oil, though? Like, what is it? Is that hemp oil, basically, that he's been squirting into his joints?
There you go. Previously, it's been olive oil. But this might be a little CBD. We are in Amsterdam. Well, we cut back to Venom, and Miles is talking to Alec, a very Bond villain guy who's even stroking a white cat in his arms. And Miles says, you pay me $20 million and I'll hand you all of Holland on a silver platter. And Alec says, very well, proceed with phase 2. And the cat says, meow. And you gotta love an evil cat.
You really do. And they're definitely going for that. I think this is Never Say Never Again had come out in 83, I think, which I think had a Blofeld-esque sort of thing. Or there was another one recently with Blofeld and the White Cat. Maybe it was Diamonds Are Forever. Diamonds Are Forever had come out only like 5 years earlier, maybe. And so, like, definitely had that trope going on. Also, I love, like, his opening line for Alec is something like, your price is very high. And I love that Alec is negotiating with the terrorist who's just demonstrated he can destroy, like, a good chunk of Alex's country. 20 million is a low price for this, considering the GDP of the Netherlands in 85 was 144 billion US dollars.
Yeah. Miles seems to just kind of spin a wheel of fortune to determine how much he's going to ask for any given thing. Because before he's asked for like a couple $1 billion. Sometimes he just wants to carve his face in a statue. This time it's 20 million. Which I'm telling you, that 20 million does not cover the cost of that giant thing they built.
Yeah, it's been 3 billion for the Statue of Liberty, 15 billion, I think, for Oslo. And 20 billion for the Netherlands. So it's definitely like a spin the wheel or a darts board scenario here.
Absolutely.
They do a cool shot of the cat's eye with a faked reflection of Miles in it. So they lean into that evil cat thing.
Yeah. Maybe it's the cat's the one behind it all.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, meanwhile, T-Bob, still trying to prove that windmills can fly, he accidentally gets caught in a windmill blade and is lifted into the air.
I tried to find some research on this because I don't think this would actually work. I'm nearly certain that the wood of that windmill would crack under the weight of T-Bob.
Yeah, agreed.
I tried to do some research on the strength here, and I did find some vague mentions that in the 1600s, the Dutch used windmills for torture devices, but didn't have any concrete references.
That's one torture device that required the wind. Like, sorry, can't torture you today. There's no wind. Well, meanwhile, Venom rolls out the mega ultrasonic machine. This thing is enormous. It really is like the NASA mega rocket mover, which I believe is the official name for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did a little research myself. Yeah, the mega rocket mover. Back to Matt. He and some other Dutch guy are watching a dike under construction. They are all very well made, so it must have been unnatural causes for the dike's failure. And I'm just like, didn't Matt establish this already?
Yeah, I wondered about this. And now I'm up for the Writer's Defense Award. Maybe the Netherlands exists outside of the PNA, and Matt needs to establish some facts on the ground with some outside folks to then justify bringing his paramilitary group in. It's got to be unnatural, huh?
Right? Gotta go blow things up.
And they will.
They sure will. Well, we're back with Scott and T-Bob basically tilting at windmills. And T-Bob spots a windmill whose blades are turning in the opposite direction, and we watch as it launches into the sky.
Okay, there is something cool, and it's weird, but it's cool.
Yeah.
But it's also a weird choice on Venom's part to have this be a part of their plan. Like, it felt unnecessary.
It's not like that has anything to do with the plan whatsoever.
Right.
The plan is not based around a windmill. It's based around a very undisguised, giant ultrasonic vibration machine.
It's like they had the meeting with Alec in front of that windmill, but like pulling the permits alone would probably take a while. Like this is really elaborate.
It really is. But speaking of this flying windmill, T-Bob, very excited that it actually exists, and he says, quick, call your dad on your radio. And Matt takes the call in Thunderhawk, and he says, I'm off to play Don Quixote, flying windmill. That's even stranger than a flying car. He says it like super chill like that.
Yes, exactly. And if you see this shot of his eyes, it's like he's really sedate. So yes. I think we have enough evidence right now to say Matt's on drugs. That's number 3.
I'm on board with that. I think Matt is stoned, for sure.
And they catch up to it, and it transforms into jet mode. Look at his face again. Still super sedate.
Yeah, and his line is, a costume party, and I wasn't invited. Well, things are about to get pretty serious because a piece of the windmill, lands on Thunderhawk's windshield as it's flying. Matt can't see, which allows Switchblade to kind of nearly land on top of Thunderhawk and switch on the afterburners, which causes Thunderhawk to fall from the sky, crash into the water, and sink.
Yeah, it was a really cool move on Miles's part, and also kind of like a Top Gun-esque move to get in that close. So I thought it was actually kind of awesome. Again, like he's on his game this episode.
He really is on his game. And as Thunderhawk is going down, I could only think of one thing. What's going to happen?
I don't know.
Well, we will find out after these messages.
Mask doesn't know what it's getting into. We'll be right back. Now back to Mask and Venom.
And we're back. And we're here to mourn the death and celebrate the all-too-short life of Mask's leader and founder, Matt Trakker, who just crashed to the sea and is gone forever. PJ, any thoughts?
It's sad. I mean, I think we can look back on Matt's life as a father. Mm-hmm. Number of times he said to Scott, go to the hotel.
Yeah.
As an investor, and the number of weapons of mass destruction and biological experiments he funded.
Mm-hmm.
And, let's be frank, like Gloria and Scott will have to find a way to move on with the billions and billions of dollars they've inherited now. So
that's true.
Rest in peace, Matt.
Rest in peace. The star that burns brightest burns for half as long. He will be missed. We'll be back after these messages. Just kidding. We find Thunderhawk lying at the bottom of the ocean floor, upside down. Spectrum's lasers are out. The doors are jammed.
I thought this weird. The masks aren't waterproof. Like there's a giant dent in his helmet, but at the same time, I'm just like, feels like a deep flaw.
I bet Gloria's. I bet Aura is probably waterproof.
I bet you're right. I think you're right. Yeah. He's still sedate, though. He's still super, super sedate, like when you look at him. So the drugs have not worn off.
No, they haven't. I mean, Thunderhawk is upside down. It's filling with water. And Matt's just still cool as a cucumber. He realizes nothing's going to work. But then it clicks. rockets work underwater, which I guess they do. You can correct Matt. And he uses a rocket on the underside of Thunderhawk to escape from underwater. And once on land, Matt says, that's a heck of a way to wash a car. And I say, it's also a heck of a way to deal with PTSD.
I kind of wonder how much of this episode Matt's going to remember.
Very little. We are back at the cottage.
Well, it's fun because Matt has Thunderhawk towed back to the cottage.
Right.
Like, he has to call up somebody and in whatever broken Dutch, like, explain that they need to go onto the dike, flip Thunderhawk upside down to right side it up, and then tow it back to the cottage. So, like, there's an entire missing scene here of a crane involved to get Thunderhawk, into a towable state.
Yeah, totally. Well, and then Scott comes running out of the cottage.
And Matt hugs Scott.
Yeah, like a really fatherly way. Like he picks Scott up like a toddler.
It's very affectionate. Do we need any more proof that Matt's on drugs?
We do not. It's been proven. Well, we go to the agent selection scene, and he says, select agents best suited for mission in Holland. Well, who do you think's going to be first up for that one? Brad Turner. Of course he's best suited for a mission in Amsterdam. He's probably already there.
That was 100% my thought. He's intimately familiar with the area.
Yep.
So it's like you want Brad there to at least give you directions.
We got Dusty Hayes. And of course, we've got Gloria Baker, champion race driver, black belt in Kung Fu, Team Hottie, and Matt's wife. Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry to say there are no escape scenes. Instead, we just go to Boulder Hill, where the team gets briefed by Matt on the giant Big Brother screen.
Do you think that they can tell that he's stoned out of his mind as well?
Well, on that big screen, his eyes are really big, so I'm sure they can see how bloodshot they are. Or how big his pupils are dilated. Brad's like, oh, I got you, Matt.
Matt, you need some shades right now. So flight time check, Denver to Amsterdam direct is going to be about 11 hours. Uh-huh. If Brad's allowed to fly, I think it's closer to 15. So,
do you mean if he's allowed to fly like on Condor?
No, I meant if he's allowed to fly the masked jet.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he's going to make it a straight line.
No, he's not. Well, we cut to a quick lesson where Scott and T-Bob learn what windmills actually grind, which is like wheat and barley. Like, okay.
This was a really weird cutaway. I wasn't sure if it was done for time because it was like, this almost could have been the lesson at the end, just as like education. So I'm glad kids are getting educated in how grain is made. And quite frankly, it's like, oh, like Scott and T-Bob are just doing tourist shit right now.
They have nothing else to do. Well, we cut to the masked jet in flight. And then it lands, and we see Gator and Shark rolling out after landing. Where's Condor?
Well, Brad's not allowed to drive at the moment. He's still coming off his high.
I see.
Just give him a little bit. Just give him a little bit.
Okay. Well, the masked team arrives at the giant building where Venom was building their ultrasonic device. I mean, this building is a massive tower in the middle of nowhere. Don't you wonder what the locals were thinking when it went up?
Say what you will about Venom. They know how to pull building permits. They know how to work with the local bureaucracies to get their shit built.
Yeah, but of all the things that you might want to disguise, like as a windmill or something, maybe that building, rather than Switchblade, would have been the thing.
Good point, sir. Fair, huh?
Well, Brad spots tread tracks leading out from the building and towards the ocean. And so Matt and Brad will take to the sky. Dusty warns Matt to take it easy on Thunderhawk, though, because Dusty fixed it up, but it's held together by chewing gum. And I'm concerned that Dusty doesn't have the proper know-how to actually repair a complex machine like Thunderhawk.
I'll double down on this one, because actually, ironically, at this point, wouldn't Scott be the right person to actually fix Thunderhawk? Because we have established Scott has built T-Bob, and he rebuilt Thunderhawk with Bruce after it was destroyed in Solaria Park.
Yeah. But here, let me just add something to that. If he's doing the agent selection scene and he knows that Thunderhawk got beat up, wouldn't he maybe just want to call Buddy and Bruce to come and fix up Thunderhawk properly? I mean, we know that Buddy's right there at Boulder Hill anyways. Well, meanwhile, on board a massive container ship, Venom is inspecting their giant ultrasonic device with the Dutch Bond villain. And this is where we learn that Alec says, I should have been made Prime Minister of Holland. Now I shall be the Prime Minister. So, would you care to explain how causing an epic disaster will achieve this goal, sir? By the way, also, I love, right after that line is said, Miles is so patronizing.
Now I shall be Prime Minister. Of course.
Of course. Yeah, sure, pal. Whatever.
I'll realize that I did not research the government of Holland or the Netherlands in such a way to understand how their system of government works. Yeah. It very well could be the one who threatens the biggest disaster is the one who gets picked as prime minister.
Yeah.
But what I love about both for Miles and the audience is that we've seen this before. Miles and Venom are just doing a job for hire. So Miles could not care less for who's in charge as long as he's getting paid. And as such, he doesn't bother to question this logic of this jackass. It's like, sure, whatever. I'll do it. What? Fine. Fuck it. You pay me $20 million. I do not care. Your country does not matter in my schemes.
Well, Miles transforms the boat into an oil rig. So like this thing is crazy. So the boat basically goes horizontal, sinks down, and then opens up so that it really looks like an offshore oil rig. I mean, the technology is off the charts. This is like the SDF-1 from Robotech transforming, like almost to that scale. And the fact that he only wants $20 million for this gig just shows how economically unsophisticated Venom is. Like technologically sophisticated, economically stupid.
Yeah, 100%. And it is one of these things where it's like, you're right. Like I heard the Robotech theme song in my head as it was transforming.
Yeah.
And I think this would have either actually been one of the coolest toys in the world or one of the lamest. Yeah. But it's actually a really cool idea for hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, there's like a pseudo-science corner you can do on this. So there's actually a version of this that exists in real life. And it's called the RV Flip. And it's used for oceanographic research where it was this platform that, in order to be steady in the ocean, could flood its rear end and go completely vertical. So they actually had to like do all this cool stuff inside so you could have this thing go 90 degrees. And it's a kind of ship that transformed into a stationary rig. So it's actually really similar to the opening shot of what Venom is doing here. Now, Venom's way cooler because it expands and does all this stuff, but it's cool. Actually based on some reality. It does point to one thing, that Venom's rolling in dough again, and I got a theory on it.
Okay.
So after that incident with the German finance minister and the making all the money disappear, I think Venom seized his assets, and that's why they have cool toys again, and that's why they're not living in hovels all the time. Right. That chateau in France that they were like enjoying in Paris. So
excellent.
They're
point.
back.
But as you pointed out, this is a great way to hide in plain sight because, in fact, Mask flies right over it. It just looks like a regular oil rig to them. So back with Venom, the Dutch Bond villain calls the Prime Minister and orders him to step down or he'll destroy every dike in Holland. But the Prime Minister doesn't believe him. And Alec is dumbfounded. He's like, he doesn't believe me. He says I'm crazy. And Miles has another one of his greatest lines ever. I despise unreasonable people. Which I agree with. I, too, despise unreasonable people, BJ.
This is what I'm saying. Miles is on top of things. Like, I'm kind of in Miles's court this entire episode. So let's look at it from the perspective of the Prime Minister, okay? Yeah. He gets a call from some rando official or rich guy that he'll, quote unquote, destroy the country. And because the Prime Minister isn't insane, he doesn't believe the rando, okay? And now this Dutch Bond villain is like completely stunned when the Prime Minister doesn't immediately step down and declare this guy king based on a phone call. So I was like, what's the series of steps that was in this guy's head that thought this was going to happen? Like, oh, I'll destroy a dam, then I'll make a phone call, then I'll be in charge, then I'll call my mom and let her know I did it.
I just want to add one other element to it, is that the guy is actually able to get the Prime Minister on the phone in the first place. Like,
true.
imagine call the White House, like, put the president on the line.
Would be great nowadays. I've never tried to call the White House, but probably today you'd actually get put through like a press 1 if you'd like to talk to the tour. Like you'd actually have to wait through the phone tree
Right.
to try and work your way through. And
Yeah.
I sort of wonder, like, how long was this guy on the phone? Like, no, I need to speak with the prime minister. Yeah, I'm going to just remember that dam. The dam that had unnatural. I can do that again. No, I don't want to be placed on hold. No, I'm on hold again. And Miles is just there, just grimacing in the background, just like, this is the worst 20 million I've had to earn.
Well, after this unfortunate response from the Prime Minister, Miles prepares to turn on the device, but the Bond villain changes his tune. He never wanted to destroy Holland. He only wanted to bluff. And Miles says, I never bluff.
I mean, say what you will about Miles, but he's earning his terrorist title this episode.
Yeah. This is the moment that I said this is the really sophisticated turn in the episode,
Yeah.
which, I mean, you've seen it before in many episodes, but like, the bad guy is like, actually, no, I don't want to go that far. And then the real bad guy is like, no, I take it this all the way to the end.
Yeah, he's going to do it. He also doesn't want to look bad.
No, he does not want to look bad. Dusty and Gloria, they encounter cracks on the dikes. And Matt then scans and finds the coordinates of the ultrasonic signal. And then all of Mask converges on the oil rig. And I'll say this, at least this time, all the right vehicles were chosen for the mission. The 2 ones that fly and the 2 ones on the water. Rhino's not there uselessly. Firecracker, Hurricane, they're not there uselessly. So good job.
This was 100%. Right vehicles are here. Awesome job.
So Matt fires a sonic disruptor, which jams the analyzer. Okay.
So I got a little frustrated by this a bit because, for all intents and purposes, Thunderhawk's back up and running perfectly fine. And I kind of thought this would be a great point to call back to T-Hawk being out of commission, or put a time limit on it, or something that basically connects back to the stakes of Thunderhawk being damaged, because it gets pretty weak sauce about that pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, it very much, lames out at the end. Yeah, this is not a Deus Ex helmet, it's a Deus Ex T-Hawk this time. Well, now that Mask is here and the thing isn't working, Alec is glad. He wants to stop it and get his money back, but Miles is keeping the money. And whatever the Dutch government coughs up as well.
I really enjoyed the idea that this was like Amazon, where you can just get a refund. So, you know what? I'm going to sympathize with Miles at this point in time. It's like, look, I just dumped $2 million developing this 2-story, like, ultrasonic analyzer. Like, I'm not returning your money.
Well, we dive into the final Mask Venom battle. Piranha takes to the ocean, Manta takes to the sky. So again, we have the right Venom vehicles for the task at hand. What's actually really cool is Thunderhawk, though it's completely damaged, takes out Switchblade before it can even take off. Like, blows off one of its sort of landing runners. And Matt states coldly, Thunderhawk owed you that one, Mayhem.
Mayhem messed with Matt's true love.
You come after Thunderhawk. Now it's personal for Matt. Not Scott, not Gloria, not anything else.
Thunderhawk.
If you touch Thunderhawk, you're going down. We have a cool piranha shark battle under the water. Gloria fires an ink cloud and then fires a net, which captures piranha. And it's like, with the amount of firepower she's got, just blow it up.
We've seen those headlights fire off before. Just fire them and be done with it. Or the torpedoes she's got on board.
We know she's a killer. She's a stone cold killer. We've seen it before. I don't know what stops her this time. But unless it was the net was going to, I don't know, somehow pin Piranha to the ground and Sly was going to die of either drown or asphyxiate.
It's true. Maybe it would be too easy for her. It's like, I want you to suffer, Sly. Suffer long, suffer hard.
Up in the sky, Manta buzzes Condor, causing Brad to crash into the ocean. But Shark kind of catches Condor on its roof and brings him back up to the surface.
I was using this as Brad's on drugs. I mean, naturally.
Yeah.
Which taking us up to 4th use of drugs. All basically Mask or Mask-affiliated people.
Uh-huh. Yep. Brad shoots a hole in the ship with the antimatter ray and causes it to start sinking.
All right. So I wanted to ask you a question. All right.
Yeah.
All the Venom agents are off this ship, as far as we know, unless there's a bunch of rando masked Venom agents that are just cannon fodder. So is it actually necessary to sink the ship at this point in time? Wouldn't it be better to go on and destroy the machine Because who's to say it can't work underwater?
Right, the assumption being that the device will stop working if it goes down. I mean, is it necessary to destroy the machine? No. Is it fun for Brad to do it? Yes.
Well, so this ship is now sinking in the water, and I want to talk about that in a sec. Okay?
Well, guess what happens? Venom gets away because Thunderhawk is not up for a long-distance chase, is what Matt says. But it's been doing pretty well during this battle. Plus, there's multiple masked vehicles available. However, nope, just let him get away.
So this is the payoff of it being damaged? It's just another excuse not to chase Venom?
I mean, dude, he blew up Switchblade. I think Thunderhawk's probably up for a little bit of a chase. But anyways, off they go. However, there is some justice because Dusty picks up the Dutch Bond villain. And Matt says, bring him in, Dusty. That's one guy who's really going to be in Dutch. And now, here's what I need to talk about here. This is the name of the episode in Dutch. So I always love it when the name of an episode is in the episode itself. But maybe I'm too young, but I had to look up what the phrase in Dutch means. So what it means is in trouble or disfavor, as in, if I don't finish on time, I'll really be in Dutch. And this expression may allude to the stern reprimands of a Dutch uncle, slang circa 1850.
Yeah, I'm really glad that kids will know all about mid-19th century slang that is being used in this episode. That's what the writer was thinking.
But is this something that was from like Westerns, like John Wayne Westerns or something back in the day or something? I couldn't find a reference to it anywhere.
I've never encountered this before. The closest thing is when you say you're on a date and going Dutch, which means you're splitting it. But
right. Well, good one. Real way to nail it there at the end of the episode.
Tied it all together for us, folks. So they did actually have this one little shot where they animate the cat darting from Alec onto Gator, which was a little fun.
Yeah.
But then they cut back to Matt's face, who's still on drugs.
Just a sedate smile on his face as he heroically flies over the hulking and burning wreck of the fake oil rig.
Okay, so I want to break this last one down for you. It goes back to my comment about, okay, so what fuel source, Adam, one of two, you can pick either one, would that ship or platform be running on?
I mean, look, it really depends. If we're going something natural, it's going to be some diesel fuel. But if it's, Venom, it's probably, a nuclear reactor.
Either way, we're either leaking fuel from diesel into the water because they never turned off the machine. They just shot a ray into the side of it to make it sink. Or it's leaking radioactive material into the water.
Yeah.
Either way, what kind of environmental damage is being done right now?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and take the DeLorean time machine example here, and I'm going to say that the ship runs on crude oil, like diesel fuel, but the machine was powered by plutonium. So it's a double whammy here. It's a massive oil spill just spoiling the pristine shoreline of the Netherlands while making the water radioactive for centuries to come.
So what's great, Adam, is that you can't get a crew in to clean it up because of the radiation. The best you'll be able to do is set that diesel fuel on fire to try and eliminate it, right?
Right. Hopefully not, igniting any of the nuclear fuel. This is the Exxon Valdez meets 3 Mile Island off the coast of Holland.
Great job, Mask.
Well, that's it. After destroying yet another ecosystem, we cut to the more you know. Scott's on the tennis court at the Trakker mansion, and for some reason, T-Bob jumps off the roof and lands on the tennis court. Scott and Matt are wondering, what are you doing? And T-Bob says, I saw a guy jump off a building on a TV show once. And then the lesson is, T-Bob, you should never try a stunt you see on TV.
I have so many thoughts, man. So has T-Bob finally had enough and he's going to end it all?
Yeah, that's what I thought when I saw him.
I also really enjoy the relative weighting we get from the writers based on frequency. So we've gotten 3 different lessons on putting your hand down at a garbage disposal, and now just one episode why it's bad to jump off a building.
Yeah.
The last bit was like when I saw this scene, it immediately evoked in me the scene in Almost Famous.
Yeah.
Where Billy Crudup's character is standing on top of a roof in front of a pool and he screams, I am a golden god! Yeah. Followed by, I'm on drugs!
Well, and what's eerie, if you look at the two shots, is they're almost identical. I mean, the angle of the house, the hand gesture of T-Bob. So I guess Cameron Crowe is a fan of Mask as well.
I think so.
Well, that's the episode. Time to dive into our awards. Let's start with the Slyrax Ragdoll Award. What do you got?
I mean, I thought Matt's crash into the water was it. Like, he should be dead.
Yeah, I agree.
What's great is that, and we didn't talk about this earlier, but he lands with the bottom down.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we see the next shot, it's upside down. So whatever he did in there caused it to just flip upside down when going into the water.
R.I.P. Matt. We will see you next week. The Buddy Hawks Award. I've got Johan, the stoned, I don't know what he is. Is he like the levee inspector? Like, I don't know what he is. He's kind of got some sort of a weird uniform on. He loves T-Bob and laughs his butt off all the time and has a really intense accent.
I love the idea that he's actually just a dude who's in a uniform who just decided to pretend he impersonates an official. And that's not illegal, apparently, in the Netherlands.
No, I guess not. Father of the Year moment. What do you think?
I kind of thought it was like abandoning Scott for him to go look after his malfunctioning 750-pound robot while stoned that can kill Scott accidentally, while Matt goes about looking for the terrorist organization that's in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to zoom out to the 3,000-foot view of that one and just say, for me, it's once again taking your son to a location where you know for a fact a terrorist organization is operating. Matt, it's just something that you don't do as a parent. I don't care if you beat this terrorist organization 35 out of 35 times that we've seen it happen so far. You still don't take your kid to that type of place. You just don't do it. Roy Batty moment. What do you think? I
mean, certainly there's something to be said about that bit at the end where he jumps to his death. But I was like trying to take it from the perspective of what would piss off T-Bob more. And I kind of thought it was like everyone refusing to believe that T-Bob saw that flying windmill.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. That it's just, people are gaslighting him. Well, is this episode Panda Poo?
Okay, here's the thing. Normally we really judge the Panda Poo based on Venom's actions.
Right, I agree.
And I really thought, it was an overall Panda Poo for me. I thought Venom did a great job of being a credible threat. They blew up the dike at the beginning. They nearly kill Matt. It's guns for hire stuff, but at the same time, like, he's going to make his mark on this country. So I thought Venom was, super credible. What was fascinating is that we almost have the opposite problem, which is that Mask seems like they're playing this one at half speed. Maybe it's the drugs, but it was like, for as credible a threat, it just didn't get met with the same urgency for Mask. And it's unfortunate because, like, it could have been a vastly better episode had they met. I mean, it's almost like luck where they kind of just, won in the end.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely not Panda Poo. I think it's one of the better written episodes that we've seen so far, especially from Venom's standpoint. But you're definitely right about Mask. And there are some missed opportunities where, before they go into the water, Dusty and Gloria notice that, one of the dikes is starting to crack and leak, and it would have been cool for, Gloria to hang back and use aura to try to, maintain it, where meanwhile you got an orphanage on the other side of it, like up those stakes. And we're really seeing like she's trying to hang on so that Mask has got a real time pressure, that sort of thing. I think that's what's kind of missing from the episode is that urgency.
Yeah. Or like you could use Gator's freeze ray to freeze it and you still have that time thing there.
It's starting to crack. It's cracking.
Yeah.
And Dusty's like, well, Matt, better hurry up or else this dike's going to crack like
This thing's going to crack like a cocaine 8-ball or something.
Yeah, Brad finishes the line. Well, everyone, that is it for episode 35. Coming up next is episode 36, the Lipizaner mystery. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Lipizaner? Lipizaner?
I think so.
It's like a Czech last name, I believe. But anyways, the Lipizaner mystery. Venom steals the famous Lipizaner stallions, where an Arab purchases them for $4 million. Okay. But Mask team member Dusty Hayes foils their heist. Well, that's a terribly written logline for what I hope is maybe a slightly better episode. So the Arab purchasing the horse doesn't bode well for me.
I've seen this episode. I've done this to you once before. I kind of want to do it again.
Okay.
Which I feel like there's going to be 2 words and a shot that are just going to make you go, what the fuck? So I'm willing to lay that bet down.
All right, I'm looking forward to that one. That usually means we have a good episode on hand, at least for us to make fun of. So let's find out when we get there. But for now, we need to transform and head back to HQ. I am Adam Moore.
And I am PJ McNerney.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Mobile Armored Podcast Show is written, produced, and edited by Adam Moore and PJ McNerney.
Of course.